Steel Connections, a podcast dedicated to unearthing industry insights. I'm your host, Brandi Martin, President and CEO of Instafab Company. I'm joined today by my co-host, Shawn Juber, our esteemed General Manager at Instafab.
Thanks, Brandi.
It's Monday, and it has already been quite a week. I don't know about you. I guess that's the trade, right? Well, anyways, I'm just really glad that we're getting this thing lifted. Listeners, what you don't understand is that we are actually not having our first episode right now. We have already tried to record and it did not go as well as we had hoped. Shawn and I were pretty kind of nervous about how we get this thing launched, and we had written scripts to kind of guide our conversation, make sure we hit on some points that we wanted to talk about. And unfortunately, we found ourselves reading from the scripts and it was very salesy, and it just was not us. And after we were done, we're like, man, this isn't authentic. This isn't who we are. We're more laid back, casual, want to have kind of a good conversation, and just didn't hit the mark. So this is our take 2, and hopefully it'll be pretty interesting for everybody.
This is exciting. I think we're going to do good this time.
Everything's got a shaky start.
Second one's a charm.
Well, Shawn, to dive in, since it is our first episode, why don't we start by telling our listeners a little bit about who we are as a company?
Sure.
So in your own words, no elevator pitch or anything, what would you say that we do as Instafab?
I think for me, Instafab it's got a new dynamic. So I believe that the things that we're doing different is we're able to do the same kind of work that other fabricators and erectors do, but with a different feel. Like we have more of a team vibe. Like we're people forward. We're people focused. I think we have an environment at Instafab where everyone feels like they have a place and they can contribute, and they have the opportunity to elevate us as a company individually and then collectively together. It's really unique. And from the places I've been in the past that didn't really have that feel, I'm really excited about this because it's kind of a new deal. I don't even know how to explain it further. It's exciting.
Like a new approach. No, I love that you say that. I think, so when I came on a year ago, I was looking at this company as we're structural miscellaneous steel fabrication, and then we also install it in the field, right? So I thought of it more of as a product company. We are a product company. We build a product. But as the years gone on, we're really a service company. We provide a service to our customers. And I think we have that similar approach in how we deal with each other internally, right? Like that customer service, that relationship focus here.
Exactly. It's so hard to explain because it's so unique. I haven't been somewhere where the feel is we're going to do a quality service to our customers, and we're going to be proud to do it. We're going to be happy we're working together, and we're going to support everyone within our team and within our reach, our customers, our vendors. We're treating everyone as, I don't know if you want to say equal, or maybe equal is a good word. We're not treating somebody special or like they don't matter. For the other hand of things, everybody has value and everybody contributes to the same cause, and it's kind of a great feeling.
Yeah, I think the traditional way of doing things in our industry is
like the iron fist approach.
Yeah,
and it doesn't have to be like that.
No, it's been this hierarchy, right? Like I'm top dog and everybody's just got to listen to what I do. I'm more important or something, right? Which no one ever really respects. There's no relationship there. And it's not even true because you can be at the top of a company, but you can't operate or run it without everybody else there, right? So the way
the trust has to be there as well. Like I think this is driving trust because we're all in the commitment together.
Well, and I think too, right? This is a system. This is like, think of it more of as a system, like a circle, a wheel. And everybody is a cog in that wheel. We all serve different roles and we have different responsibilities, but not one is more important than the other, right? Like fabrication isn't more important than estimating. Estimating isn't more important than project management, right? Because one without the other, we wouldn't be a company and we wouldn't be as effective. So
the good thing is too, I feel like the leaders at Instafab, and myself included, I genuinely feel like my job is to support everyone there and not to dictate what I believe is the best way, but to bolster and just draw down on the fundamental things and help train and educate and foster like good behaviors and good practices
Mhm.
instead of just saying we're going to do it this way, there's no other way to do it, and we have to be in alignment that way. That's, I mean, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Right. I mean, I think that goes into like my philosophy on the difference between managers and leaders too, right? Leaders, they facilitate, they unlock all the gold that's in the minds of the people that they work with. Managers are drive down change, and it's they manage the situation. And I don't think that what we're trying to foster here, what we try to bring into the company, are managers. We want a company full of leaders. So,
No, no doubt. And I think that approach definitely works, and it has, the time tested. You can evaluate a company that's had that from the top down. You're going to follow those orders, but I feel like they plateau, and then they end up going through people because the people feel unwanted. They feel like they're not contributing. They're not all goal focused on what our main objective is, which is all of us growing and coming up kind of together, but still running a business and being successful and doing all the things that everyone else is doing.
absolutely. No one wants to be rolled over, and everyone wants to feel valued. I think that helps with
Sure.
retention. Shawn, would you say, because you've been in this specific industry a lot longer than I have, would you say that this is kind of a common approach, or is this different? Is this disruptive?
I think this is absolutely disruptive. And I think once this gets out, this might be the new norm, and that you can be successful, that you can drive good revenue, you can hit good margins, you can produce quality product, have great customer service, and still be people forward and have not only your customers be happy with the product that you got, but your people be happy with what they produced for them and that they all did it together.
Right. I mean, what we're talking about is not something squishy, which I think a lot of people kind of sway away from the conversation because it sounds squishy. But at its essence, you're treating people with respect. And everybody deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of what their position is or what their contribution to the company is. So I agree. I mean, I don't want to take it is kind of my vision. I'm driving forward, right? Like driving this different way of managing. But I don't think it's anything revolutionary. For me, it's common sense. And I think the studies are backing it up that companies do better. They're more innovative when you have diverse opinions. People feel like they're a part of the process. And ultimately, that's better success for the entire company. So,
I think from like especially my standpoint and others I've worked with at other places, we all have to be humbled when we come to the table and realize that you're not the smartest person in the room,
mm-mm.
and there are many people that have experiences and tools to offer that can make something really difficult in your realm a lot easier.
Oh, absolutely. I think like when we're working together, then listeners, we also have another core part of our leadership team, which is our controller, Jonathan. We've all got different unique opinions and perspectives on situations. But I think at the end of the day, we give each other permission to disagree with each other and challenge those things. But when we come out of it, we have a plan that's really robust and it is well rounded, it's well thought through. But think about like the opposite. If we didn't have that kind of situation, in a vacuum, you're creating these plans and these agendas for your company, and you could be missing out on so many things and so many great ideas. So, yeah, I agree with you.
I think one thing we do that really promotes that, and this is something that I really enjoy doing, is things that bother us or that are making our life difficult during the week. We have that meeting once a week where we can kind of get all of those things out on the table, and then we look at them collectively and decide what's really important, what really matters, and it kind of puts what you're doing into perspective. And you can kind of see the bigger picture at that point, that there are bigger things out there that might be more important to deal with. And gosh, I just really that's like the best part of my week, because I start to get this idea in my head that, man, this is starting to get tough, or this job is maybe taking a little bit of a turn and I'm not quite sure what to do. And then we get together and we talk about the things that are bothering you or things bothering Jonathan, or I've been doing this with the project team, and like the answers just come out of the woodwork,
Yeah.
and it's awesome. It's the best part of my week.
The collaboration makes it easier too, right? It
It
feels
does,
like,
when it just puts it in perspective, really, you know.
yeah, yeah. I love that. Well, Shawn, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, where you came from, and what made you decide to join our Instafab team?
When I got into steel, I started in the shipyards, which is a little bit different environment, but not like crazy different. I would say in a relationship, it'd be like you go from building apartments to building houses. You know, ships are huge, they're dynamic, they're unique, they're one off, but they have the same basic structure that we do now. So I did that for several years. I ended up working after a move to Washington State. I ended up relocating to another fabrication shop. I spent some time there before I found Instafab. Like I said, the dynamic feel that Instafab has and what you bring to the table, boy, it was too good not to jump on board, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
I appreciate that. I think you've been a core part too of this transformation that we've been going through. Absolutely a core part of that, with both your like industry insight and your experience and your way with people. People follow you, and I think that says a lot about a leader, right? When they're willing to give up whatever they're doing to come and trust what you're saying is happening and what you're seeing in a company, I think is excellent.
What
So
drove you to kind of change the dynamic that you walked into when you came to Instafab? Because what did you see that you're like, you know, I'm gonna push this people forward objective and see if it takes off and see what I can to drive it. What drove that?
that's a really great question. And I think, I mean, there's a lot to it. When I first came into the company, knowing that I was replacing the founder who was finally retiring, meeting him, having a conversation with him, hearing that he really cared about his team was aligned with my personal values. It's about who you work with, and I have a very distinct like vision about how leaders should be, and it should not be about them. It should be about the people that they're working with. And Bruce was very similar. He was very is selfless, and he cared about his team, and that was evident when I came in and I visited the plant too, that everybody just had this love for Bruce, and it was real. It wasn't fake. It wasn't just because he was boss or he founded the company. And likewise, he had this sincere appreciation for his team. And knowing on the back end that Instafab had recently become an employee-owned company because Bruce wanted to retire and because he didn't want all these employees being displaced, he wanted them having a future and all of that. I mean, that spoke volumes too, and is really commendable and respectable. So that drew me in. Not to make this about gender or anything, but as a female in the industry I came from, in real estate and development and business, we're not like wholly represented there. And it's a tough trade. It's a tough market. You've got a lot of really experienced, male dominators in the space, and it can be really cutthroat. So I had been taught, and I think kind of groomed over the years, that you don't have emotions. You set that aside, and it's all about business. And I believed that for a long time. I was probably a leader that I wasn't super proud of today. I was following the wrong advice, the wrong style. And over, a few years before I came to join Instafab, I found it wasn't effective. I found people who used emotion really well, and they had bonds with their team members that I valued. I really loved that about them. So I changed it. I was like, I appreciate people. I am human centered, and everybody brings emotions with them when they come to work. We're humans. We're not robots. We can't check it at the door. So I wanted to be able to really lean into that when I was looking for my next spot before, I settled on Instafab. And
Yeah,
when
you're killing it.
I
You're killing it.
kind of going on with a monologue here, but I told my husband and I had told a few other people that I'm gonna see how this goes. I know it's a construction firm. I know it's manufacturing, but I feel like people want to be valued, and I've never had that go wrong on me before. So I was going to give it a shot, and lo and behold, like it took like wildfire. People started listening to me and following me and believing in me when I came to Instafab because I recognized who they were, what they were saying, and what value they add to the conversation, which isn't, like I said, like it's not revolutionary, and it seems common sense to me. And I knew that this was going to work. So when I have people who are like, "Ah, that's too soft, that won't work," I'm like, "Well, it is." So
Well, I think what you're doing has a pretty significant impact at Instafab, but I think some of the accolades from our community outside of Instafab are pretty important too. The Business Journal, the 40 under 40, that's a huge accomplishment. I mean, congrats.
thanks for
We're
revealing my
we're
age.
yeah. Be proud of how young you are and how far along you are, because
Yeah,
boy, I'm just envious, and you're killing it. And we're all super super proud of what you're doing and where we're at and who we're doing it with.
thank you. But I mean, I think I appreciate that recognition, but also it's about who the teams I've worked with too. None of it could be accomplished just by me and sheer willpower. I mean, I have a lot of willpower and a lot of energy, but it's about the people that I'm working with. If I can't guide them and lead them, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I've been
Uh,
really fortunate to work with some great teams like you.
well, I think we're pretty excited about the direction. I mean, we've been working hard to establish that, so that's awesome. We're driving. I think we're all driving collectively in the same direction now.
Yeah.
Whereas when this all got going, there was some strays out there doing kind of their own thing, and I think we've corrected those, and now we're all driving down the same path. We're marching in unison, and the doors are opening.
Shawn, what would you say was the most difficult part of like our transformation journey so far since you've come on to Instafab?
I think that Bruce, like you said, had um, such a huge impact on the way he managed work and the way he dealt with his people, that when we came in, I think there was a big resistance to the change in not only leadership, but maybe the styles of leadership and some of the details that we were driving. And then I would imagine that the turning point was when, at least the turning point for me was when I realized that, like you were saying, I couldn't just drive my agenda. I had to start incorporating other people in the room and listening and being more of a, kind of a sponge and soaking up what people were doing and saying around me, and tailoring the foundational changes and the direction to kind of better fit what they were feeling too. And then the change was less resistant at that point, and now we're like I said before, we're just kind of driving in unison. We're all marching to the same tune.
I know. And I think a year ago, I wouldn't have, I questioned how well we'd be doing that by now. It certainly doesn't happen overnight. It's a lot of stress in the moment. You look back and you're like, oh shoot, we did make it through. We've done a lot. But it doesn't feel like that along the way. So
Change is tough for any of us, and I think I've had my own issues with change, and I think your style has definitely opened my eyes to it, and I'm more receptive not only about how to create change, but how to accept change myself.
yeah, it's tough. Nobody likes change. And I think the
Well, it's
hardest,
because your pride gets in the way. Your pride is like, I've been doing this right. I know I'm right.
absolutely, everyone is scared of change, and it's uncomfortable, right? Um, but it's super necessary. I think that you just really embrace it, and that you find that discomfort, right? And that growth opportunity comes along with that change. So I don't know.
Comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And I mean, if you're not, I guess if your glass is always full and you can't learn, then you're you're peaked out.
It's so hard though. It's easier to say than do, right?
It
Like
is.
I'm like thinking about like an incident I had today where I'm on the other side of this, right? I'm dealing with some board of directors that I was talking with today, and when you are when you're kind of justifying or talking about things and change, you got so much tied into it, so much effort, so much time, so much passion into it about what you've done It's very easy to be on guard about it. And so this afternoon, like driving home, getting prepared for this podcast, it's like, man, I feel like maybe I was a little bit more defensive than I needed to be. They probably didn't even notice it, but I felt it inside me that I was being less objective, because I'm, part of that change. And it's not often that I feel that, but it makes me very sympathetic to others who are constantly being battled with that change, especially in our company. A lot of things have changed over a year.
Well, you put a lot of effort into what you do, and I think we both do, and many people at Instafab do. We put a lot of effort in, and it's hard to be critiqued or have a curveball thrown that maybe you didn't think about, or just makes all the information you provided garbage.
Yeah.
It's tough. Gosh, that's tough.
But I think that there's beauty in that recognition, right? As long we're all human, we're all going to have those moments of being territorial or defensive or
Sure.
whatever that is. As long as we can signal in the moment, like, why am I doing this? That just shush. I often am like, Brandy, just shut up in my head. Just listen for a second. And yeah, I think great things come out of that. You can reset yourself pretty easy.
You are a great receptive listener, though. I know that I come into your office sometimes and bend your ear, and you just, regardless of what it is, like make me feel like that's the most important thing going on. And I really, really, really appreciate that. Honestly, I've been trying to emulate that a little bit when people come into my office, just learning to shut my mouth because it has a mind of its own sometimes.
We all do. We
Yeah,
all do.
yeah, no. So thank you for that. That's a life lesson.
Yeah.
I find myself doing that at home now.
I have to do it at home too. I mean, my home Brandy is very different than work Brandy. So, um, well, let's see. I've got a couple of things I wanted to ask you. So I was going to ask
Please.
one of these questions. So obviously, safety is super crucial in our industry, right? How do you
Yes.
say that Instafab really prioritizes that and make sure that we ensure a focus on safety day in and day out that is different, or maybe it's similar to the other companies that you've been involved with in the past?
Well, I think, one, there's a baseline requirement. OSHA, which just about everyone follows, has a set of standards. We have a larger number of employees than most fabricators, I'd say. So
Mm-hmm.
we're required to do a couple of things. We're required to have a safety committee, and we're required to do monthly safety meetings. But I think where we step up our game is we do a daily stand up with our crews. We make sure that safety's on the forefront before they start their shift. We do our very best to get them the safest tools, the safest equipment, the best training. And I know that training and safety meetings are a must with OSHA and most general contractors, but I think that we elevate that. Like for instance, we're migrating to a Hilti program that is helping us monitor our equipment, not only our tooling but our safety equipment for added maintenance and or service life, things that aren't generally tracked well with others, I think. And so we're going above and beyond to make sure that our people are in the most safest environment. They have the safest tools. Um, and hopefully they appreciate that.
I agree. I think what we do, in my opinion, is that we kind of promote psychological safety and being able to call things out. Since everybody is an employee owner in our company, we all have a vested interest in everyone being safe and being successful in the company. But I don't think today, the team that we have today was different in the past, ever dismisses anything that we hear about a safety issue. When I first joined, it was very different. I think safety items may or may not have come up, and I wouldn't have been surprised if people were dismissive and like, oh, that's nothing. But today, the team that we have, we take it serious and we explore it. We ask questions. I know you do. I know I can't think of a single person on our team that does not dive deeper in making sure that we're fully evaluating it. We might deem it not an actual safety risk when an employee comes in and mentions something in passing, but we do our due diligence to make sure that we're exploring that.
Well,
And then it isn't.
I think you can also tell by the workspace. Like you can walk through our shop everything is clean, it's organized, the material is stored safely, whether it be incoming material or outgoing material. It is in its safest possible state. It's not in a position where it could fall over and hurt someone or fall off
Mhm.
a set of sawhorses or a piece of equipment. It is absolutely in its safest state at all times, and that is like number one priority for everyone out there. Not only our supervision, but like you said, everyone's kind of looking for that,
Mhm.
and they feel confident in calling out if something is out of place.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And we listen to that, and they should feel comfortable. And I think to that point too, even if it's not something that legitimately is a safety issue, we might have some, explanation for it. It's still a perception of not being safe, perhaps, and that's something that we take into consideration too, and adjust.
It is. I think the best thing for us is when we onboard new folks and they look at our shop situation and what we're doing with a fresh perspective. Like something I have our shop supervision doing now is, and we'll get to the field stuff here in a minute, but the shop supervision, I have them once a week going to the shop. They put their blinders on to everyone around them, and they just look for things that are out of place and unsafe, and almost pretend like they're walking through there for the first time.
Mhm.
And they're not taking questions at that time. They're not doing a fit check or answering a question about where the bathroom is. They're looking purely for safety hazards, things that might bite us. A snake in the grass per se, something that could sneak up and get us without us knowing.
Yeah, I think another element that we have kind of embedded into our system that I love for that purpose too is when we have our onboarding surveys. Within 30 days, we send out a survey to new employees asking, is there anything we should be aware of? How did our onboarding go? How was training? How
Yeah,
was safety? And we get some really good, transparent information from that. One of our employees, she was super, very transparent and honest and open about things that she experienced. And it's like, can you have some time, say it today or tomorrow, and come and talk to me about it? I'd love to know more so that we can adjust that and we can fix it. So yeah, I think we have some good.
that is definitely a useful tool. That's something that I've never experienced anywhere else either.
Really?
The feedback from your employees is so valuable. And sure, there are always going to be people that are, the folks, I don't want to say complainers, but
Mhm.
there's people that are more vocal about things than others, and they're just unhappy in life,
Yeah.
and so they tend to point out things that, just to be that thorn. But generally speaking, most people are really receptive to that, and I feel like having that open communication makes it so the things that might hurt us later are not hidden and
Yes.
not swept under the rug. So that's huge. As far as our field teams go, I mean, training is the key there, but I feel like we're extra diligent when we do. A lot of companies they have a generic site specific safety plan, like a boilerplate. We send this out, we change a couple names and maybe a phone number, and that's it. But I feel like the thing that we do that's different, and I hope our customers appreciate this too. But we spend some time on site with them. We find out their emergency routes. We find out the closest hospital or urgent care, and um, we try to like dive down into what's important on that specific job site, which is why I think it's in the name, site specific.
Mhm.
But again, most places I've been, site specific meant we send out this boilerplate nonsense that has the bare bones minimum covered, and it kind of works for every job site. And the general contractors are like, yeah, this is garbage, but we'll accept it. It kind of meets all of the criteria, and it's good enough. It's good
Makes
enough.
makes you wonder if it's boilerplate too, if they're even paying attention to it. I think the thing that we do here, and I thought you were going to say, I tear apart all of our forms or something, but we don't have anything that's canned. We put thought into what we've got. It's intentional. So even if we do have, I'm thinking of like our quality manual or our quality management system.
Yeah.
Um, we go through and thread through it to make sure it's applicable to us, it's customized to us, and that it actually is reflective of who we are as a company. And I think
Well, we
that's
spent tons of time on that too. I mean, that's I think it's a valuable tool that we use. I mean, we literally use it day in and day out. It's
Mhm.
referred to by our shop supervision. It's referred to by our superintendent. I mean, I'm constantly looking at it. Our detailers are using it. Um, it's definitely meeting or exceeding the bar.
So, what do you think about, because a quality management system is very new to Instafab. We've always been a shop that was not AISC certified, and we had no other certifications other than the Weibo. We had
Sure.
individual welders with Weibo certifications. What do you think is like the primary, if you could sum it up, like what would be the primary difference and distinction between a shop that has that and a shop that doesn't?
I think the difference, in my opinion, a shop that has a good quality program, you're making a valiant effort to have double, triple, quadruple checks on the quality of a product before it leaves your facility. When our install crews are on site installing structure or stairs or railing or whatever it may be that we're putting in, they know that they're gonna put bolts in holes and they're gonna fit, and it's not gonna have some, excuse my term here, some BS method of making it fit. They're not going to have to use special tools to make a hole bigger, or a customer's not going to complain that the quality of the welds are not up to par. I would say that what that quality management system does for us is it gives us that in-house reassurance that we're sending out exactly what we're selling or better.
Well, and I think that goes the same for our customers, right? Is that there's reassurance, it's reliable. You have a consistent, well thought out process that everybody follows. And we have a format that we send to our customers to review as well if they wanted to look into what our QMS is. But yeah, it takes it reduces the amount of risk that you have in a supplier like us.
I think so too. That's what it boils down to, the risk. You
Yeah.
know that we're doing our diligence on our end. We're doing everything we say we're going to do, and then some, and
Mhm.
then giving you the visibility throughout your project to kind of see that yes, we're tracking material traceability. We are diligently checking material sizes, material shapes, that our welders are being looked at, our fit up is being looked at, the paint spec is being looked at, and that our quality program is sound, and we're getting after the things that we say we're going to do when we sell you this project.
Yep. Being thoughtful. Agreed. What would you say, Shawn, has been the most interesting project, or one that you've come across our table? Could be in the future too, that's upcoming. But what's been the most interesting project that you've seen here at Instafab?
Well, I think from an opportunity standpoint, I can't speak on the specific project because it's under a confidentiality agreement, but on the horizon, we have a potential project that could, I think, be a game changer for us as far as one, revenue, but two, I think it's going to highlight what we're actually capable of because it has a large amount of structure, but it also has a large amount of miscellaneous too, which is something that um, a project is usually heavier than one than the other, but
Mhm.
this is almost equal parts, and it would be by far the largest project that we've ever looked at as a company, and I'm excited that um, several people have reached out to us and they see the change and they're asking us to even look at stuff like this. I mean, that is by itself exciting. And then we're working with some other really big, like nationally, if not globally recognized companies that are asking us specifically to work with them in this region
Mhm.
to cover things that they just can't get coverage on.
Which is kind of nuts to think about, right? That they're
Yeah.
not able to find coverage for it. There are so many fabrication companies out there. It's a very fragmented market, especially within our region too, nationally also.
So where do you think, as far as our future goals here? I'm really excited about our future, and I have my own thoughts on where I think we're going to end up here in,
I
the
know.
next 3 or 5 years. But let's hear Brandy's version of 3 to 5 years from. Let's call it 5 years from now. Let's shoot for the moon. Where does Brandy see InstaFab?
Well, I played a little bit more conservative than Shawn does. We actually have a bet that if things go differently and in his favor in the next, what was it, Shawn, a year, 2 years,
Yeah,
you get some bragging rights, and I told you so. So we've got it built into our strategic planning.
it's going to
Uh,
be pretty awesome.
3 to 5 years from now, I mean, without divulging too much, I would love to see this company because as a little bit of background, there's a maturity cycle that each business goes through. Instafab's been in business for almost 40 years. And like all companies do, they go through the startup phase, they go through a growth phase, they go through maturity. Well, Instafab unfortunately went from startup to like growth phase and often, but didn't make it into maturity. And that's custom. Whoever founds the company is not often the person who can take it to that maturity level. It's usually somebody else who comes in and helps with that. So my goal is that we'll see a lot of growth and then we'll start to see ourselves mature. But I would also like to see us being represented in the community as kind of thought leaders, right? And partnerships and connectors in this space where if we weren't working in your company, we're not working on your project, I mean, it doesn't really matter. We can hook you up with somebody else who will be a really good source for you and value add to your project. And hoping that we just become really ingrained in the community in the construction and the manufacturing space and help elevate it. I think there's been a lot of things that have gone on in our industry in the past that has turned others away. It's really rough. It's really hard. People have always been treated really well. And I want to see that change because this is a great industry to be in. You look around wherever you go, buildings, you go into the stores, you go any part of life involves manufacturing and construction, and it's essential to our society. And there's a lot to be proud of in this industry and in this space and doing this kind of work. And I hope we can really help dust that off and bring that to light. And then, of course, there's the idea of revenue growth. That's obviously key to me as well. But it's not just about the money. I think the money comes if you're doing all the right things, right? You're present in the community, you're doing it right, you're paying attention to how you're controlling your costs and all that, obviously. And then you're treating your employee owners, well, in our case, employee owners, our employees well. I think everything else comes. People want to align with people who are doing the right thing out in the world. Nobody wants to align with the crook out there or someone who's screwing other people over. And I don't want us ever to be construed as that kind of a company. And then being employee owned, I want to make sure 5 years from now that we are living up to the truth of employee ownership and really showing the power of what that means. It's our company does well, our employees get a bite of that, and that can sustain them through retirement or whatever it is. They're helping build wealth in a space in a blue collar, gray collar industry where it may not have existed before. So those are the kind of things that I'm tying strategy to, and I'm hoping to really see come alive in the next 5 years.
I love it. I mean, truly, I mean, it's exciting to talk about, but I mean, I think we share a similar vision. Of course, our revenue. So the revenue is what we're talking about. Where we're going to be in revenue. Like I'm up here, and Brandy's
Conservative.
here-ish, and she's more conservative. What she's probably right, but I like to shoot for the moon, like you said earlier. Um, but I think one of the things that's taking us there is um, in this industry specifically. I think there's been a lot of ego as far as um, the inability or the not having the want to work with a trade partner. And I think something that is currently building strength with Instafab is the fact that we have several trade partners at this point, and
Mhm.
and we're growing those, and those people they see us as a way to catapult themselves into the future and grow. And I think we share that thought because we see them as a tool for growth as well, where big growth, quick growth takes a lot of capital expenditures, things that are tough decisions to make. If you're just an individual company, you don't have any partners, you don't have a lot of options. But I think being that we have several partners, we have people that are willing to do projects with us collectively. I would say there's six of them at the moment. I mean, other fabricators, larger, smaller, specializing in different things, not necessarily the same. Some do both. Some do what we do, just on a different scale. but being able to keep an open mind and go into a project together as a partner is something that other folks in this industry just aren't doing. They're so, and I don't want to bash on, um, one of our competitors, but they're very, very self-absorbed. They think that it's their way of the highway. They don't want to work with anyone else, and I hope that they're successful. But I think that inevitably that might be their demise.
It's been the name of the game for a long time, but I think being successful is great. Being a competitor and being competitive is great, but it's how you do it that matters, right? And there's
Yeah,
no greater feeling than knowing that you also lifted up other people alongside
yeah,
you. I mean, you are
absolutely.
to reach beyond your own company. So I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I think being a partner in that way is powerful. So
It is. I think, like you said, elevating the ones around us and being open-minded. And I think Brandy's teamwork environment may be pushing that agenda. The fact that, we kind of look at everything through a fresh perspective. I mean, I know I am. I come from a world that's very, God, it's very iron fisty. It's dictatorish, and I'm used to being the one getting force fed directives that I have to go force down
mm,
several people's throat and do the same thing. Where here we're just taking things a different direction. It's a breath of fresh air.
there's a lot of things facing our industry that we're not going to tackle if we're all operating in a silo. We have to be able to lean on each other, and there's power in that. We're looking at labor shortages across the nation. We're looking at all sort of things, sort of pressures that are facing our industry. And the only way that we're going to get through that is if we're working as a team and we're all aligned and we're all tackling these issues together. So I think that it benefits the whole system. Well, while we wrap this up, any advice to any other operators or players who are trying to do what we're doing?
I think if I had one piece of advice, I would say keep an open mind. Don't be afraid to ask the hard questions and be humble. Be humble. There is other ways to do what you're doing, and all you have to do is be a good listener to find them out. Your
That's beautiful.
people will tell you.
I agree. I agree. Well, thank you, listeners, for joining me and Shawn for our very first episode of Steel Connections as we introduce our company and our podcast. And we hope to see you for more exciting conversations in the future.
Thank you, guys.
3, 2, 1. All right, hold on. I'm going to pause.
Oh boy,
Somehow my dog opened the door.
I may have to pause too. My shed door blew open.
I'm joined today by Shawn Juber. Sorry. We were talking about change. I don't know where I was going with it now. You were talking about change being tough.
We're good?
Everyone's scared of change. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm taking a drink too, so perfect.